Hello there, Scorpio, and welcome to your October reading. Great to see you first and foremost, especially all of my return viewers. If you're brand new, I'd also like to extend a warm welcome and give you a proper introduction. My name is Nicholas Ashbaugh, and here's how I organize the reading every month. I like to start off with some channeled information. I really enjoy this part because it's when I'm just connecting with raw intuition and sharing what I see, feel, and hear with you. Afterwards, I use the cards in a Celtic cross to help identify all of the blessings and any potential blocks that you might face in the month ahead. Now, that part is very organic, so I expand the forecast to look at some specific areas afterwards, including health, wealth, love, and destiny. As always, you can use this forecast for your sun sign, your rising, as well as your moon, and you can watch on behalf of someone that you care about in your life. And if you don't happen, by the way, to know your sun, rising, or moon sign, then just stick with the sign that you were born under, and you're going to receive all of the guidance that you need simply by doing that. So as you can see, this gives you a really in-depth overview of everything that's coming through for the month ahead, and I hope you enjoy it. If you do, please stick around until the very end, because in addition to giving you a really concise overview, I'll also give you some ways that you can give back to the channel and support future video production. This includes everything from liking and subscribing to connecting on social media, and for some of you, you may also choose to book an appointment or become a patron. Again, I'll get into the details of how you can do this and why it's important at the end, but I know you came here for the forecast, so let's get straight into your channeled message for the month of October. As I selected a deck of cards and began to meditate on your sign, what I started to feel was this sort of overarching energy that felt like it was kind of closing in on me, a little bit of claustrophobia, and I wanted to kind of push away. I wasn't sure where the energy was coming from or why it felt restrictive, but my initial impulse was that I needed to put up limits and basically know how and when to push back. And what I wrote down in channeled writing here was know when to push back and then also to conserve time and energy. And I know that in a previous month we talked about rest being essential. So there's a little bit of carryover this month. It's not just rest though, it's also about knowing when to give, when to take, and when to just basically say no more. And that's a hard lesson to learn, especially if you're intuitive, you have a big heart, and you want to help people. But it's going to be very, very important for you because I feel like there's a lot of opportunities that are going to come through this month. It feels like the energy is going to be very intense, and you want to kind of approach the entire month as if it were a long distance sort of event. If you put everything out at the very beginning, you're not going to be able to sustain. So I think the previous month was about resting. This is more about conserving and knowing exactly when to give a little bit and when to say no. And I think sometimes when to really put proper limits up, because sometimes people don't take a hint. So I think that you could be very direct when necessary this month. Again, the more you tune into your psychic abilities, the more important it is to know who you want to kind of connect with and how much you want to give. So let's take a look now at the cards and see what additional insights they have to yield, not only with this, but other energy and other information that's coming through for the month ahead. As I take a quick look at all of the cards this month, it's all about change. In your catalyst, we have transformation. It's reversed, but it's still transformation. Crossing the center, we have death, which is another word for transformation. And then we have release. All of these are, to me, the same sort of energies coming through. And the message as I look at the three of these is that you have to let go of something to allow something new to come in. There's a little bit of a sacrifice, either a sacrifice of an old way of doing something, or of money, or of time, or of energy. There's a trade-off this month. We'll start with your catalyst. This is how you can really stay in a high frequency and take advantage of what's coming through. So we'll read it upright even though it was reversed. It says, a fresh new way of living emerges. The Phoenix is reminding you that you can't hold on to the past, that whatever you lost actually is kind of clearing this space so that you can try something new. Sometimes when we're in a dead-end job or a toxic relationship or we feel stuck in our lives, the universe has a way of coming in and pushing us onto something new. And what I see here is slightly more gentle for some of you than a tower incident, but it's no less sort of, it's going to require no less energy from you to kind of adjust to it afterwards. But there could be, for some of you, a literal loss of property, or perhaps you are parting ways with someone, or you lost someone in your life. It can also indicate a physical death. So at the center, we have a Chariot card. You're trying to take control or really try to steer everything in the midst of change, of what might feel somewhat chaotic, some of this new movement in your life. The change, as we look at deep past, could be stemming from a new investment, a sale of a house, a pregnancy, or a new job that you decided to take. An ace is offering and receiving. So any of these things would, in and of itself, create a little bit of chaos, but they're not mutually exclusive, so you may be dealing with a couple of different changes. Again, maybe a new job and a new baby. Or you lost someone that you cared about, and then there's a new amount of money that came in too, and the two things together are overwhelming because you're mourning not having that person in your life, and now you have to deal with this financial, it could be a blessing, but it feels like a burden, especially if you're in charge of trying to distribute funds. So I'm seeing a little bit of overlap, some positive changes and some overwhelming changes. And for some of you, it could be two or three things because we basically got three death cards: transformation, death, and release. And it could also be the different phases of letting go, right? This one is literally just having death happen, having a change or a shift happen. This is kind of finally letting go. And this is emerging from that and thinking, these are the lessons I learned. Now I understand why this happened. So you may find yourself at different phases of grief or adjustment or embracing sort of this exhilaration of something new in your life. Another interesting thing that I'm picking up on is that some of you may have found new strength because of this loss in your life. For instance, if you have a really overwhelming boss that is constantly sort of second guessing you and never really empowered you to do what you wanted to do, and suddenly they got transferred or they left or they moved on, there's a vacancy now. Some of you may be able to step into that vacancy, or some of you may be recognized now for the skills that you have. Because in the recent past now, I have the King of Swords, and in the near future, we have the Knight of Swords. So this could represent how you were kind of pushed down, and this could be your potential. These can also be aspects of your personality. Now you're bold and outspoken, and you're able to take risks. Or you've learned what you needed to from that person, and you can start to embody that energy in your life. So I see a step-up opportunity for many of you. And if there was someone in your life that it was kind of a toxic relationship, it could have been a parent, could have been a friend, or just somebody that had a really big impact on how you felt about yourself. If this person steps away, if it's a breakup, a loss, a death, a divorce, what happens now is it's just you, it's just your energy, and all of a sudden it's like you rediscover who you are. That's the transformation energy that we're seeing here. And it's a release, it's a relief, and that's what we're seeing here with your Destiny card. So for some of you, what will be difficult initially to deal with could be a major blessing. And all of a sudden, you get to really spread your wings and become the person that you always wanted to be. It's unfortunate sometimes that it takes a big event or someone completely stepping away or even passing away for you to be able to find yourself. But know that It's okay if on some levels you feel a sense of, "Oh, finally, I can just be me." That doesn't make you bad. It's just that other person's energy was heavy. When you start to become a little bit more intuitive, sometimes you can pick up on how people's auric field feels to you. And when I'm around people that carry a lot of grief or frustration or have they're a little bit pushy, sometimes it almost feels like they're sitting on top of you. It's hard to breathe. Your lungs close up a little bit. And I feel like some of you now are, for the first time, taking a deep breath, sitting up tall, feeling your power, feeling your strength, and I'm happy for you, okay? There's nothing wrong with realizing that that person, that energy, that situation may have been literally depressing or compressing your energy. In the crowning position, you have to weigh some options here. The Six of Pentacles is a great card financially. It's showing me that you're not struggling. It's not a great abundance card, but when you look at this, it's all about balance and choices. The reversal of this is showing me that all of this change is forcing you to reevaluate what's important to you. What do you care about? What are you passionate about? There's no right or wrong answer this month, but you are going to have to say yes and no to some things. And that means that you won't always be able to please everybody. You're going to have to really do some soul searching and figure out what's best for you. And don't make apologies for that. That's okay. This is part of the adjustment, part of the change that's coming through in your life at this point. Things are going to move pretty quickly around the midpoint of the month. The Knight card is positioned in such a way that I can tell around the 12th to the 15th, many of you are going to just be super busy. And this is where it's important to sometimes push back on, if someone's asking you to do an extra favor or work late consistently, it's okay to say, I have an obligation tonight, or I need to take a sick day, I'm not feeling well. Self-care is really important, especially for those of you that are working through some sort of grief, loss, or massive life change. That's just to be expected. And if you don't do that, then it's going to be very difficult for you to concentrate, to focus, to stay neutral and to stay open and kind of take in everything that's coming through in your life. I want you to try to, I talked to another sign about this and I think it holds true for you. Ace of Swords is a great card, but the reversal of this can show that you're sometimes your own worst critic. And so if you're having a hard time being positive about yourself, then maybe talk to somebody and get some perspective on your life. Or like I said, take a break if you feel like you're just sort of working so hard that you don't understand what your motivation is. With some of the changes going on, you may be able now to choose to live differently. If you came into inheritance, you might be able to retire early or put your money into a different investment which changes your future or what you can do for a living. So there are some big decisions for many of you. For the rest of you, it's also sort of like a review point in your life. We don't always have to have like a midlife crisis or sort of an empty nest syndrome or an end of life review when you're up in the ethers. You can do this at any point in your life. And I feel some of you are reevaluating everything and thinking, why did I decide to study this major in school? Or, I've been doing this job for 10 years. Does it feel right? I've been in this relationship. We're not married. We don't have kids. Where is this going? I feel like some of you are having those little moments of reevaluation. Just make sure you have a healthy perspective on all of the opportunities in front of you and that you're giving yourself credit too for working through loss and change. It takes time. When I look at your environment card, we have the Magician. Everything that's been going on is actually opening up opportunity for you. This is a card of power, manifestation, opportunities, charisma. This can be something that pulls in great things into your life. You already had a little bit of that. Now it's really coming through strong. And if you meet somebody new this month, I'm seeing a really strong connection. This is one of those that kind of defies logic. It's like pheromones and energy and maybe even a soul connection. So if that happens, all of this stuff that kind of has already tracked in your life sets you up so that you could be more satisfied, happier, more in your power, more capable of doing things. And with the Magician card, the question now becomes, where do you want to focus your time and energy? Because the Magician is only limited by sometimes its ability to not focus. I love the Magician card, but if you try to do everything at once, nothing gets done to its maximum capacity. So try to pull a few things off your plate this month and focus on something that truly brings you passion. That passion could attract either a friend, a partner, a lover, someone else who shares that passion. You have a chance this month to widen your sort of social sphere. If you're married, you might have a chance to do something with your partner. If you're single, you could meet a partner. If you're single and happy, a business associate may come into your life. One way, shape, or form, I see at least one suitor, possibly two, because we have 2 nights coming in. And really, the choices are kind of in your court, what you want to do with that. The outcome card for the Celtic cross is the Hierophant in reverse, which is basically saying, break through that glass ceiling, try different things. If you're at a dead-end job, it's time to quit or move on. If you're in a relationship where nothing's happening, have a heart-to-heart with your partner and decide, are you still on the same page? In your life, if things have been predictable but you're not satisfied, take a risk, travel, try something new. The reversed Hierophant is not playing by the rule book. It doesn't mean that you have to get completely chaotic. It just means change up some aspects of your life and don't be afraid to kind of dip your feet in the water. This is the right time to do it. And some of you may now have new means with which to do that as well. So some interesting choices are emerging for you, but I feel like they're powerful and ultimately they're going to create a sense of empowerment for you. And that's really all you could ask for. And if you've been looking for love, there is new love coming through, at least one partner. We have swords, so we have an air sign, and cups, a water sign. So it's really kind of what are you trying to bring into your life? What are you looking for? Let's go ahead now and expand the forecast. We're going to start with the health card. For me, this is a multi-part card. It's mind, body, and spirit. And more often than not, how we feel emotionally or what we're thinking of in our mind, what kind of stress we're dealing with sometimes as well, that's going to have a major effect on our health. This month, we have a creation card. So in the absence of all of these things, the fact that you do have to create, for some of you, that creates a new sense of stress. It's kind of ironic, right? But the Magician to me is a creation card. And when I'm looking at how this weighs on your mind and your energy, it's sort of like, what do I do? Some of you might be asking yourself, how do I deal with this? What should I do? So seek out guidance if that's the case. If you are burdened with a new sort of financial responsibility, work with a lawyer, work with a financial planner, get some advice, ask some friends, dig in and do a little bit of research. If you're feeling just stuck or you want to try new things, this is about the creation of new cycles in your life. It can also be about letting go of cycles that don't work as well. So I want you just to see yourself very much in control this month and take it one breath, one step, one day at a time. Don't get overwhelmed. If you look at everything at once, it's kind of like when you decide to, redecorate or clean your house, or if you're trying to write a paper, if you try to just put everything out at once, it's too much. You have to take it one chapter at a time, one piece at a time, one room at a time. And pretty soon everything has order, form, shape, and is organized. Okay? So baby steps. One more note that before we move on to the wealth card, the Magician in your environment can sometimes show that there could be a temptation. So if you've recently overcome some sort of an addiction in your life, that can come through when some sort of a trigger pops up again. And if that's the case, absolutely ask for help. The card is upright, so I feel like you are on the good side of this. You'll be able to manage it, especially with the chariot in the center, but be aware of those triggers. It can also indicate that, I mentioned that you could be overwhelmed, but some of you may have struggled in the past with focusing or concentration or like ADHD. If there's something more to that feeling of being stressed or overwhelmed, again, it could be exacerbated by the changes that are either coming through right now or might be coming through soon. So lean on someone if you need help, okay? All right, in wealth, we have another indication of changing and shifting, whether it's external or something that you feel within. Let me read the card. So we have Kali here. It says facing fear. And the smaller text is as follows. It says, major spiritual changes are unfolding. This is your chance to soar. These cards definitely work in concert. Both of them were reversed though. So this is about letting go or releasing fear and understanding that sometimes, it's It's okay to be afraid to try something. It's okay to not have faith in yourself. These are normal human emotions that everybody goes through, no matter how spiritually advanced they are or not. There could also be, for some of you, just this feeling of maybe being on your own for the first time, because that King of Swords energy or that Chariot energy that was at the center, that can be really intense, especially if it's a husband or wife, a parent or a boss, or a really prominent figure in your life. So sometimes we have this kind of love-hate relationship with that energy, and you kind of get used to constantly looking at that person for approval, permission, guidance, clarity. Now this month, it's all you, and that can feel overwhelming, especially when you have to make a decision about your career or your resources or whatever you're trying to do on this planet, because that's kind of what I see with wealth. It's how you spend your time, your energy, and to some degree, your love too. So you may be in uncharted territory where you're trying new things, and guess what? You're going to be fine, because the center card is the Chariot upright. This really does represent an aspect of you. The near future is the Knight of Swords. You're going to be okay. You just have to take a step, okay? So my encouragement for you this month is to trust in yourself. And yeah, there may be some missteps along the way. Everybody learns through trial and error. So just get out there, just try. And for some of you, the question that I would pose to you if I was reading for you is, what are you afraid of in your career? Are you afraid of not succeeding? Are you afraid of succeeding? Are you afraid of trying something that would be unpopular with friends and family? Take a look at really what your desires are, what your hopes and aspirations are, and how does fear intersect with them if you had a Venn diagram. And if it is just a fear of failure, you might as well try. If it's a fear of judgment, how would you feel at the end of your life? Because you judge yourself when you're in the etheric realm. So after your life is done and you go into life review, you work with the angels and the guides, and we are all manifestations of God. We are God, especially when we're in the ethers. So God works through us and sees through our eyes, and we basically do the review and the judgment of our own life. So if you judge yourself at that point and you think, I should have tried it, you don't want that. It would be better to try and fail than to not try and then afterwards think, now I have to reincarnate and try that entire lesson all over again. So I'm encouraging you to try all you want, fail all you can. There's nothing wrong with that. Learn each time, because we don't basically get graded on what we're doing. We're grading ourselves. So as long as we continue to learn, we get an infinite amount of tries to come back on this planet and other planets to learn what we need to do, okay? So give yourself a little bit of a break. There's no A, B, C, D on how you're doing. The only score is, are you progressing? Are you feeling that you're trying new things, learning new things, and expanding your knowledge? As long as that happens, fear can have no power over you, okay? Let's move along now, and let's take a look at relationships. This one is really, really interesting. I get two reads with it. So the card was reversed, but it's a symbolic card. I love this deck because it really challenges you to use your intuition. So looking at it from afar, you just see the face, but as you go a little bit closer, you can actually see all of these. Could be ancestral voices, it could be familial or community voices that are kind of weighing heavily upon this person's consciousness. So if you are sometimes feeling like you're trying to play to all of these different audiences, my advice to you this month, particularly when it comes to love, because that's where that is you have to do what makes you happy. As long as you're happy, your partner's happy, you're consenting adults, no one's getting hurt, there's no shame for whatever that is. So if you love someone from a different culture, from a different socioeconomic status, or whatever it is, and people around you can't understand that or can't support it, the blessing in that is that you realize that the people that are judging you really didn't have your back to start with. And now you're coming through to teach them to see things through a different point of view. But you should embrace what brings you joy and happiness. These voices, especially if they're external sort of like things like bias and prejudice and disapproval and all of that, They may be weighing heavily upon you, but they don't hold a lot of weight at the end of the day. You have to be happy. So my first piece of advice is tune those out. Now, there is another piece with this. If someone in your family, or if you are sort of suffering from incapacitating fears, or if you can't mute the voices, then definitely you want to get some help. But this is more symbolic to me of external forces that are not allowing you to see or to think clearly. And in that particular interpretation, I really want you to feel strong, because guess what? If I pull this card back, you're what comes through the strongest. And I want you to be happier than I kind of see you in this card. It's very contemplative, but I feel like there's a lot of energy, a lot of weight, a lot of responsibility. You could simply be a matriarch or patriarch of your family, and you're thinking about them all the time, and that's not necessarily bad. Just make sure you're carving out some space for yourself as well. Remember what we said earlier, it's important to establish healthy boundaries this month. That was what I was feeling, and the need to sort of push back a little bit to create space. You know, this reminds me on some levels of the Ten of Cups, where it can be a beautiful card connecting you to everyone in your life, but it can also be overwhelming if those people don't know when to give you space. So give them a signal this month. Even as grandmother, grandfather, or matriarch, patriarch, whatever's going on, you still need your own time, and sometimes maybe people are taking too much of your energy, and especially as you get older, you need a little bit more rest. And that's what sets this month's reading, particularly the intuitive download, apart from last month's. I said before that you need to rest. This month it's more about making smart choices on how much energy and time you have, because I feel like if you kind of weigh that out accordingly and appropriately, then you're not going to run out of energy. You're going to be okay. All right, let's take a look now at the Destiny card. Before I get into Destiny, I just want to remind you that this is a very malleable position in the spread here. It's showing you where you're headed, and it's a challenge to you to kind of search your soul, search your feelings, and think, do I like this path? Do I like this trajectory? Do I want to stay on it? Because if you do, awesome. If not, it's a chance for you to find a way to move forward. I'm going to go ahead now and read what's on the back of the card for you. It says, anytime you are possessed by an emotion that you cannot control, know that it doesn't belong to you. Someone is sending you negative energy, and it's coming towards you. Imagine that the negative emotion is muddy water pouring down through your hands, onto your legs and feet, and into the earth. Or take that emotion into your hands and release it like a hawk. Let it fly away. We tend to hold on to fears and negative energy in a sort of addictive way. When you release your fears, you allow power to come back to you. Create a welcoming void within the power of release. I want to repeat one more line here to you, which is, if you are possessed by an emotion that you cannot control, know that it doesn't belong to you. Someone else is sending that. Look again at this card. Look again at this card. The message that it was bringing through is what we see here. Many of you are kind of burdened by something that you can't explain. The answer is to release it and to let it go, so that you can get sort of a sensibility of where you are, what your energy is again. And basically, this is almost a textbook explanation for what it feels like to be an empath. Almost 10 years ago, exactly 10 years ago, I started to really have a psychic awakening. And it was happening around this time of year, which isn't the best time. I had a crown awakening, and what happened was empathy started to flow in. I could feel what other people felt, and I could feel it en masse. I could feel like an entire office, an entire crowd, an entire group. I could feel people from a distance. It was basically just a live wire. And I made the mistake of stepping outside around Halloween. Not a great night if you're just waking up to go out, because the frequency isn't super high. But I walked outside just to kind of survey what was going on, take in the sights and sounds. But as I did that, it felt as if I'd put my finger in an outlet. I had this agitated energy that worked through my body. Then I felt a little bit of dizziness and nausea, as I could pick up on all of the crazy shenanigans going on outside. Trick-or-treating, partying, drinking, all of that. And I had to quickly go back home. I think I was outside no more than 10 minutes. I had to go home, rest, have something to eat, meditate, and I was fine. It took me a few months to understand the power of grounding, shielding, and I had to learn how to differentiate between my energy, other people's energy, and when I wanted to receive it. So now I can walk outside and I'm not a live wire. I don't feel all of that unless I sit down and try to tune into something. I put a shield up, I'm grounded, I'm okay. So some of you need to practice good grounding skills this month and say no and know your limits when it comes to anything, and just be able to sort of really understand your energy and manage it well. And I think that that's what that's talking about. So once you can do that and bring your power back, then you're able to sometimes like not be a sponge for people. And that's one of the aspects of this here, is that sometimes people can sense a natural healer or empath, and it isn't intentional, but they may talk to you for like 30 minutes and they leave the room and they feel great, and you feel like you just had all of this trash heaped on you. So in the future, you can set a limit and say, you know what, I actually have to take a call, or let's pick this up tomorrow. Or you can just say, I don't have time for this right now. And you don't have to be a party to kind of cleaning up all that energy. So saying no, having limits, grounding yourself, and meditating, it's really going to be key to your happiness, your health, your mental health, your relationships, everything that's filtering in through all of it. Let's go ahead now and review everything that we talked about, and then I'll leave you with your closing word this month. A reminder that your channeled message was to know when to push back and how to conserve time and energy, viewing this month not as some sort of sprint, but a long distance run. And also it was about creating those boundaries and borders that we talked about just a few moments ago, making sure that even if you are a boss, a mother, a father, a best friend, and people are used to leaning on you, that you still have time to recharge and that you're not allowing yourself to become tapped out. The name of the game this month is changing, shifting, trying new things, and that's what we see here in the Catalyst card. And it says here that you have a fresh new way of living, and it's going to emerge this month in more than one way. We saw that with the Death, we saw that with Kali, we also saw that with the Release card. So it's really touching everything. So you're only limited by how open you are to trying new things. The center card is the Chariot, and it's it's crossed by the Death card. So if we look at a literal definition of this, some of you may be like an executor of a will. Someone may have passed, you might be in charge of the funds. Funds could be coming into your life. I definitely see that for some of you. I mentioned that there could be multiple ways of changing happening in your life. So you might have gotten a new job and had to move. You might have a new baby and you might be changing around your house. And you might have, again, lost someone, but then also gained something like money or an opportunity. Whatever it is, it feels like there's one or two changes that are happening en masse. So try to stay grounded, try to keep your sensibilities this month. The loss of someone in your life could actually bring about positive change, especially if that person was sort of overwhelmingly boisterous or a dictator or couldn't allow you to grow. You're going to stand in your power and in your strength. And for some of you, you may have a feeling of being guilty because there's almost this sense of release or relief that happens. Don't feel bad. It's a natural sort of evolution of your relationship, and that person played a part in it too, and they know what they needed to work on. So this month, focus on what you can do. You have a lot of choices, and this is where your power is. The great thing with the Six of Pentacles is whatever choice you make, you have enough, you'll be okay. So look at how you're spending your time, your money, your energy, and make sure that the relationships, the jobs, or the opportunities are fulfilling for you. The middle of the month is going to be busy. You'll be okay with that. I feel like there's a lot of critical thoughts going on. Should I do this? Is this right? And I think that's fine. As I said, you don't always have to be at the midpoint of your life or the end point of your life to have these sort of wake-up calls. Whatever happened here really made you take stock of what's going on. For some of you, it could have even been a near-death experience. I didn't even mention that at the beginning, but that's why some of this transformation could be coming through. You might even have a psychic awakening, just like I had. As we look at your environment, it's a great card. The Magician shows opportunities, manifestation. The main thing that I mentioned before is trying to stay focused and not letting your mind wander too much. Love is coming in this month if you want it. It's in hopes and possibilities. It's also in fears. Some of you might not be ready for it, but it's coming in anyway. And if you are looking for love, there's more than one suitor for many of you as well. If you're in a relationship, there's a deepening of that, but there's also a chance for you to kind of reevaluate if you're happy in that relationship as well. Do you and your partner have the same wants and desires as you used to? If you're single and happy, there's a chance for a business partnership, and we see that here with the Hierophant. But it's reverse, which shows that the success this month is in trying new things, not being afraid of failure, something that we see in the wealth sector as well when I was doing the expanded forecast. Let's talk first about health. We have kind of a mirror image of the Magician here. So the Magician is manifestation, and this card is all about creation. Don't get overwhelmed with all the process or all the responsibilities that are on your plate. Delegate, ask for help, and take it one thing at a time, one day at a time. With wealth, we have facing your fears. It's pretty self-explanatory, but the one thing that I saw with this too was just not being afraid to fail. And what is it that really brings you passion in your life, and what's holding you back from that? If you can answer those questions, you're going to be happier and you're going to be more successful. This ultimately looks more like an empath card as we combine it with the Destiny card. But what I saw here is that many of you may have a lot of empathy, a lot of love, a lot of weight on your shoulders from the family. This can be a matriarch or patriarch card. It can also be indicative of sort of shouldering a lot of the judgment or a lot of the sort of societal pressures. Whatever's going on, there's a need to release and to let go. And that's literally what we saw with this card, which is titled Release, and kind of walked you through the steps of how you could release. And then ultimately get back to where we started here, this transformative energy. So this brings your monthly reading to a close. I hope that you received all of the guidance that you need in order to feel ready and prepared for all of the opportunities and challenges that are coming your way. If you ever want to talk a little bit more about either something that I covered here today or an additional question that might pop up as you're watching this reading, feel free to reach out to me. The way that you can do that is by clicking on the first card in the video or the first link below. That'll take you to my booking site where you can take a look at rates and availability, and if that makes sense for you, then I look forward to chatting with you soon. At the beginning of the video, I mentioned that everything that you see here is viewer supported. Without your assistance, I couldn't do this. So if you'd like to support the production of future videos, feel free to click on the second card or the second link. This is going to walk through all the different ways that you can become a patron. And that can include anything as small as $1. You could do a one-time $1 contribution using PayPal, and that makes a big difference in allowing me to buy supplies and set up the time that is needed here. You could go a step further if you watch every month and decide to do a sort of continuing contribution through something like Patreon. And you can also do it for as small as $1 there too. So for less than the price of eating out, each and every month you can support what you enjoy here and allow me to sort of have the time and energy that I need to produce the videos. So for anyone that's done this in the past, I just want to say thank you. And if you're thinking of doing it today, it doesn't matter how small or how long you do this, it's going to really make a profound impact and help a lot of other people. So from my heart to yours, thank you very much. Now, a third way that you can make an impact in what I'm doing is simply by clicking a few places, and I hope that you can do this as well. If you haven't already liked the video, please do that, and of course subscribe to the channel. This lets me know and also YouTube know that this is making a difference. You can also click on the third card and third link, which will take you to my website where you can join me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and also sign up for my newsletter if you're interested. And from there, you can also share this on your own social media feeds. When you do this, it really means a lot to me because not only is it adding some exposure to the channel, but more importantly, it's helping me do something that I came to this planet to do, which is raise consciousness, start some intelligent communication and conversations around spirituality, and to shine a light for people that might feel like there isn't hope or they're really kind of afraid. And by doing that, I hope to then inspire others to do the same. I want to sort of see this planet light up with energy, with light workers, with hope. And that's kind of what I'm trying to put out there in a viral way is hope, inspiration, spirituality. So thank you for helping me kind of brighten and lighten the energy of this planet. It means a lot. Let's now move along to your closing word. One thing that I'd like to say after talking about the empathy energy that we were tuning into here is that it does improve the ability to manage your empathetic skills. First of all, it's a blessing. Not everybody can tap into the ability to feel other people's emotions. That usually shows, if you experience that you have a really generous heart, a lot of natural empathy that existed before you tapped into your psychic skills. And the important thing is to not put yourself below others. As a healer, as a teacher, as a mother, sometimes what happens is you think of everybody else first. but I did crisis training for a while, and I remember one of the key pieces of advice that I learned to tell other people is that if you're in one of those positions where you have people depending on you, the first responsibility is to your well-being. Because if you fail at keeping yourself healthy and mind, body, and spirit really in a good place, then everything and everyone that depends on you falls apart. So try to put yourself at least on equal footing and slightly above. You need to eat first before you feed your kids. You need to sleep enough so that you can take care of your kids. You need to go to the doctor just like you take your kids to the doctor. If you have a dog, it's the same thing. Don't feed your dog better than you feed yourself. Make sure that whatever it is, and if you're at the head of a company, don't work so much that you burn out and can't show up for work for a month because you're in the hospital. Take care of yourself this month. Once you get to a grounded state, you're going to then start to pull in the control and understand when and where you want to give a little bit more. And I think those limits and those decisions, that's what's going to create power for you. And that's where many of you may be shifting. Maybe you're not losing a job or losing money, or there's no loss. It's more of a decision of what you're going to invest in and what you're not going to invest in, who you're going to keep in your life, and who you're going to decide to walk away from. So whatever this transformative energy for you is, you're not going to exit the month in the same way that you entered it. And I feel like it's for the better. You're going to be stronger and more self-assured, because I see a lot of great strength in these two cards here. So embrace the possibilities, embrace the change, and I wish you all the best. I would like to end simply by saying thank you so much. Thanks for spending time with me, for allowing me to be on your spiritual path and on your spiritual journey. This little guy wanted to say hello as well, so I brought him out here. Until I see you again, please be kind to yourself and be kind to others and do something that you love, okay? I'll see you again in 1 month's time.